So I didn't film a video last week because I was super sick. I am still sick, so forgive me for eating a cough drop while I film this. And sorry if there's any choppy edits because I hacked up a lung. I needed to film a book haul. I got way too much stuff, and I also have one of my best finds ever. This is going to be so freaking cool. I'm not going to make you wait till the end. It's going to be somewhere in this pile, but I got to get through this so I can put them on my shelf and figure out where I'm going to fit even more books. Let's just start with what I picked up just today, and that is the Red Rising slipcase edition. It's beautiful, and look at that. It looks so cool. And it's got sprayed edges, but I don't really care about sprayed edges. I just really like this copy, and as far as I know, they will be releasing at least the trilogy in this slipcase edition, so I will be buying all three. That'll be a really good way to own the trilogy, and I'll worry about the other books later. I've only read the trilogy right now, so that's all that matters. I think that Red Rising is like the perfect modern example of the space opera. Not like the space opera people talk about now, where when someone's like, oh yeah, it's a space opera, and what they mean is it's a thick sci-fi book that happens to be in space. Space operas were over the top. They're melodramatic. I mean, like, it's got the opera in it because it's like soap opera or a horse opera where you've got like these heroes and all this action, and they're always doing these dangerous things that seem kind of stupid but are still heroic. And that is a perfect summary of Red Rising. These heroes that are melodramatic and they sometimes do stupid things, like boom, Red Rising's perfect. Speaking of space operas that sometimes are soap opera-ish, you know, I've been reading all of Lois McMaster Bujold's work this year, and I am currently in the middle of a huge binge of her works that has completely derailed my TBR for October, and part of that binge was some binge buying. I found 4 awesome Bujold books in one place, and I could not leave them there. And we'll just go through them right now. I have them in order of how they are sorted in the series, just because when I laid them down, they ended up that way. So let's get right into them. I picked up a book club edition hardcover of Seed of Ganda. This book is so fun, and I'm just excited to own another hardcover. It matches my copy of Komar, and I've got a first edition first printing of Memory, which is one of my new favorite books in the entire series. I love this book. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. I'm not going to say any more because I got to talk about it in a wrap-up. Hey, look, another book that I absolutely adore. I'm not done with it yet. A Civil Campaign by Lois McMaster Bujold. First edition, first printing. And Diplomatic Community. First edition, first printing. I love this cover. It is so pulp sci-fi. I just can't get over it. I want an entire set in this art style. Now, as I've said, I've been really enjoying Bujold. This Vorkosigan saga is just outstanding. I mean, everything everyone told me about it, it's there and more. I cannot wait to talk to you about the entire series. It's going to be so fun. Here it is. I am not going to make you wait anymore. I'm going to show you one of my best finds in a very long time. I'll even give you the story behind it. I picked up the Carl Edward Wagner Kane book I needed from Nightshade Books. This is a hardcover, because I think they were only ever hardcovers, and this has all of the short fiction for Kane. 2 years ago or something, I did a book haul, and I talked about Gods in Darkness. I got a copy from my brother for Christmas, and this amazing thing, and these are all the novels. Well, one of the reasons my brother got me this was because it was the cheaper of the two at like $150 or something ridiculous like that. These are so hard to find. I was at Recycled Books, and I usually don't go in the locked cabinet area because everything there is very expensive and I will buy it. So staying out of there is very smart for my wallet. I already had 5 or 6 books I was going to buy and a pulp magazine. I told my wife, I'm going to go in the locked area. What's the worst that could happen? So I go in there. I'm looking at everything, literary fiction, horror, because there's some horror things I was looking for. They actually have a paperback copy of Silver Scream, which I kind of want, but then I think about how half the stories in that collection are just like okay, and the other half I own in other ways, because one of them is a Carl Edward Wagner story that is in a collection I already own. I get in there, I'm looking at the science fiction and fantasy, and I'm like, not much has changed here. There's a couple cool things. I show them to my wife, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then I look down, and on the very bottom shelf that usually doesn't have books, and it's very dusty, I see both of these books, and I thought, oh my goodness, holy crap. And then I open them, and they're selling for less than half of what one of them costs, and it's for both. And I just told my wife, hey, we're putting up all the books, I'm getting these. And so I grabbed these, I put everything else back, and then we left, and I just had these 2. And I was like, how are these that cheap? Well, after I left, I could see why they're that cheap. I noticed it in the store, but I'm going to show you with this second copy I have of Gods in Darkness. You can kind of see that the dust jacket is rough, and if you look at the book itself, it's got like some bowing, and it doesn't like to close all the way. And when I open it, it looks like it has water water damage, but not. It seems like the book got crunched somewhere open or something, and all the pages got kind of mashed and then closed again. I didn't really care because I got these for next to nothing. And the Midnight Sun copy is in pretty good shape. It's like a little puffy. I don't know why, but I don't really care. And so what I did was I took the Broad art off the rougher version of Gods in Darkness and I put it on my beautiful, immaculate, looks like it's never been read copy of Gods in Darkness. And so now I have a very clean collection of both volumes, and I am so happy I found these. Now here's the predicament I have. I don't know what to do with this extra copy. I can't decide whether or not I'm going to give it to someone I know that will actually read these or try and sell it and kind of recoup my costs, because if I sell it for even half of what it's worth, I'll make all my money back. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet, because this one is a reader copy at this point, which for some people who refuse to read ebooks, it's probably nice for them to find. Those have been my finds recently, but I did go to some thrift stores, an estate sale, and my library sale. Some of the library sale stuff I'm not even going to show because no one cares about it. I joked about it in the last video where I said something about a bunch of books from Texas A&M University Press no one else cares about. I'm not going to show those. They're just like history of the United States and the history of frontiers in the world and essays on all sorts of topics like that, like antebellum South, stuff like that. But what I am going to show you is the other stuff I picked up. Now, I had to buy a second copy of the Essays of Mark Twain, which I showed, I don't know, like a month or two ago, just to get these. But look at these editions of the complete novels of Mark Twain. It's all 11 novels. It's in 2 volumes. They're copies of the first edition versions. And I thought these were book club editions, but then I open it and it's like, oh no, these have a price in them. And these were printed in 1964. And they're super cool and they match the collected essays of Mark Twain. So I wasn't going to say no to that. I love Mark Twain. I have most of these books already, but it's kind of cool to have them condensed down into this. And the font isn't terrible in this, so I can actually read them. These next 2 books, I'm pretty sure I will sell, only because I think I have an Everyman's Library or something like that of these. It's this 2-volume book club edition of Kipling, a selection of his stories and poems. It's like 2 volumes. They're very cool and from the 1960s, and I'm trying to decide what would give me better trade-in value, these or the other collection I have. Just because I like flipping books to my favorite used bookstore. If I don't need them, they give me store credit and then I can buy more books. This next one was a shock to me because I didn't know it existed, and that is The Ivy Tree by Mary Stewart. I know Mary Stewart from her Arthurian series, which I haven't read yet and I really need to, but I believe this is just normal fiction. And this is like a super short book and it seems pretty interesting. This is another one I'm not sure if I'm going to hold on to, but I might. I picked these up for so little money. And the last thing I picked up from the library sale is a Castle Books edition of the Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. I have a small collection of Edgar Allan Poe. It's like a Penguin collection from 1964 or something like that. It's really cool, but it's a paperback. I'm afraid it's going to fall apart the second I open it, but this chunky boy is like built to be read. Looks good, good font, small font. I don't know about that, but I mainly picked this up so I could read a couple of these for October. But the problem with that is my October plans have been derailed, so we'll see if I get around to it. I will at least read The Cask of Amontillado because it's like my favorite story by Poe. Speaking of spooky October stuff, I picked up The Dark Descent, edited by David G. Hartwell. This thing was suggested to me by Bridger at the Library Ladder, and it is a giant tome, almost 1,100 pages of some of the best horror fiction ever written. And you've got some people in here I wouldn't have even expected. Some, of course, you expect. Stephen King, Carl Edward Wagner, Manly Wade Wellman, Clive Barker, Ramsey Campbell, William Faulkner, Tanith Lee, H.P. Lovecraft, of course, Richard Matheson, of course, Philip K. Dick wrote horror. Got a Gene Wolfe story in here. That's awesome. Oh, Michael Shea is in here. That's cool. He wrote Niftaleen, and he wrote a sequel to The Dying Earth before Jack Vance went back and wrote his own sequel. Yeah, this thing has a ton of horror fiction in it, and it's one of those things that will take me forever to read because I'm not going to read it cover to cover. I'll just chip away at it anytime I've got like a hankering for a horror story. Good thing I've already read 2 of the stories in here. I've read the one from Carl Edward Wagner. I think it has Styx in here. Oh, there's a story by Fritz Leiber as well. Yeah, this has Styx by Carl Edward Wagner. That is the Blair Witch Project. They claim it's not, but they completely stole the idea from Carl Edward Wagner. And the Manly Wade Wellman one is Vandy Vandy, which is part of John the Balladeer, and that's a very good story. If the rest of the stories in there are like half as good as those 2, it's going to be like peak horror anthology. So these last few books I picked up at like estate sales or book sales online. One of them I threw in because I needed to get over that $25 mark on Amazon because I needed the item same day and I couldn't pick it up locally, so I had to resort to Amazon. Anyways, Let's get into it. I got this at a thrift store. We've got Manga in Theory and Practice, The Craft of Creating Manga by Hirohiko Araki, and he's the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, I read some reviews on this, and people were like, it doesn't help you at all when it comes to manga art, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, it's not about that. It's about like the theory of manga. And so this is a good primer for storytelling in the medium. And someone else was saying that they got a lot out of this just for writing their own fiction. And so I thought it was really cool. I really like manga. It'd be cool to get a deep dive on the topic and kind of understand it. I have like a book about understanding comic books. It's a bunch of essays about the medium. And so I thought that was cool. And yeah, I'm going to enjoy reading this. All right, this is one I had to pick up on Amazon. Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King. I love this. It's got some very graphic art in it, and it's just super cool. And it's a little baby novella. It's a little advent calendar of horrific things happening thanks to some werewolves. I really enjoyed this when I read it, and I wanted my own copy, especially a cool illustrated one like this. It's good stuff. I highly recommend that if you're still looking for something to read in October and you don't have a lot of time left because you got 2 weeks. Give Cycle of the Werewolf a try. I did it last year for Spooktober. Now, I went to an estate sale that was full of romance novels, westerns, nonfiction about military, engineering, stuff like that. I saw one busted fantasy novel that's from like a few years ago that they sold at like Walmart or something, and had no interest in it. I was like, what is this doing here? And then I found The Company by KJ Parker, and I thought, what is this doing here? This was the only other fantasy book. So you have like really popular sold at Walmart fantasy one book, and then you have The Company by KJ Parker. And I thought, did this person actually read this, or was it given to them? It looks like it's been read. Looks like it's been read a lot. So I just have to assume that this person that collected Coca-Cola stuff and all the books I mentioned before also happened to read this much lesser known fantasy book, and I wanted a physical copy. This is on my 40 before 40 list, so I'm very excited to have it. Don't know when I'll get to it. I will spoil that it is staying on my list, even though I do still plan on revising the 40 before 40. I got 2 left. Now, these are, you guessed it, some cool hardcovers from Michael Moorcock. We have Stormbringer, Elric Saga Volume 2, and the Citadel of Forgotten Myths, Elric Saga novel. This is like the newest one. I want to get the 3rd volume, which I can't remember what it's called. I think it's something of the White Wolf or whatever. Just so I can have new fancy matching copies that's like all of Elric Saga. But you know, that's not going to stop me from getting all the White Wolf stuff too, because I love Borealis Press and I want all of those. It's just that now they'll be a little lower on the list of must buys, but you know, I'm gonna buy them anyways as soon as I see them. I really need to spend more time reading Michael Moorcock before I invest any more heavily into collecting his works. I like what I have read. I just need to read more. I'm trying to remember some of the things I put back that day. I put back a pulp that had a John D. McDonald story. That will still be there. I will pick that up. No one's going to buy that. I put back a Zelazny book that I didn't really need. It was just a cool copy. Same with the Clifford D. Simic. There's like a very fancy copy of Waystation, but I already have a cool copy of Waystation. I guess the books weren't that important. I mean, I put them back to get the amazing Carl Edward Wagner stuff. I really should figure out what I'm going to do with that hardcover. Let me know in the comments what you have bought lately. Let me know in the comments if you think my book buying is excessive. Actually, don't do that, because it is. But I will say, I've read almost half these books here, so I just wanted physical copies for my collection. I don't think that's very bad. I didn't add nearly as much to my TBR as I thought. And if we're looking at books I have bought for the year versus books I have sold for the year, I'm pretty sure I'm breaking even, but not for long, unless I sell a bunch of books in the next 2 weeks, which I might. I want to thank you for watching this book haul. Sorry if I sounded weird. I'm trying not to cough up a lung, and I am hoping I can film this weekend. Weekends don't really work well for me, but maybe I can, and I will get another video out early next week instead of waiting until Friday again. Battlefield 6 just came out though, so I might be busy. Thanks for watching. And with that, I'll see you next time.